got a fun episode here for you today. And fun, I mean fun Fridays, because we are going to be talking about energy and sustainability, two very serious subjects, but we've got a ton of great investors who've joined us from around the world to share their thoughts and insights around what's happening between technology, industries, particularly energy and sustainability around the world in different places as well. And why is this very important? Well, we've talked about it when it comes to technology and how technology is being applied, whether that's around track and trace, leveraging blockchain technology around how our products are being made and where they're being made and what they're being made of, all the way to the new energies or the current old energies being upgraded and what's happening or what's not happening around these future areas, along with tons more, whether that be around the agriculture side, whether that may be around financial inclusion and banking, everything and everything in between we're going to be talking about today. And if you don't think this is a big topic, I want to throw something out to you that I read this morning. Vogue, specifically Vogue Business, actually put out a recent survey and found that Gen Z, Z as in zebra, will actually pay 50% more for something that is sustainably made than older shoppers. So as you're thinking about looking at investments, as you're thinking about building products, remember that fact. One of the biggest and fastest growing technically and connected generations is willing to pay more for products that they know are sustainably made and sourced. Something to consider as we talk about these subjects today. With that, thank you very much for tuning in today. If you like what you hear, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. If you're an investor and you'd like to be on a show like today and join this fun bunch as we're about to introduce, do reach out and we'd like to find the right technology, industry, or region around the world for you to share your thoughts and insights about. Entrepreneurs, we are now less than 90 days from the end of the year. We were just one day more yesterday. We're one day less today. What does that mean? You are on that final sprint towards the end of the year, looking ahead, already planning, if not prepared, for 2021. This is the time, if you're not already, you should be out fundraising and also pitching and selling your product, getting it in the hands of customers, making sure they know about your service. And guess what? We have a stage here on VCTV just for you to come and pitch us your product, your service here as investors, and get real-time feedback, along with building a foundational relationship with each and every one of us and our live audience. If you're interested and would like to learn more, do reach out to the LATOKEN team and or myself. We'll find the right episode and set of investors for you. And a big thank you to LATOKEN team and Emmanuel for making VCTV possible every single day. With that, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and get the introductions out of the way, because we've got an outstanding group, great friends, new friends, old friends. Everybody is here to talk about these important topics. Again, energy and sustainability, where technology is not playing a role, what's happening in these industries, and where are things happening as well around the world. Without further ado, Ifran, welcome back to the show. It is a pleasure. You've got probably one of the second coolest backgrounds of today, and I'll get to who has the first, but nonetheless, welcome back to the show, my friend. A little intro, a little background.
Thanks, Kyle, and thanks everyone for tuning into LATOKEN, and great to be in this panel today, this Friday. My name is Irfan. I'm the managing director of Irfan Holdings. So I have been active in the energy and sustainable space for over a decade now, both through in the development process as well as implementation side. So I'm excited to speak more about it. Thank you.
And we've had you here in the past too, and we've been talking here on VCTV with you about future energies, current energies, things like energy storage to alternatives. We've gotten a little bit into we've talked a little bit about real future of around fusion. We've talked about, again, storage. We've also talked about quantum and quantum computing and how that may play a role in all of this as well. So Ifran, pleasure to have you. It's a true honor, and also excited to unpack some of these areas that you are an expert. And to those in our audience who may be hearing Ifran from the first time, do check out the library, as we do have a great episode. Ifran did a keynote around these topics a couple months back with me, not too long ago. So definitely worth diving in. Keith, It's been about 24 hours. I feel like we're new best friends, but it is a pleasure to see you and welcome back to the show. To those who may not have tuned in yesterday, a little intro, a little background.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. I've been investing in energy and sustainability for 20 years, first with Mitsubishi Corporation, and then as president of BASF Venture Capital America, and then general partner at Pangea Ventures. I split off earlier this year, and I am launching a new kind of hybrid VC private equity model, acquiring a number of companies right now. So that's a new thing I've just launched this year, and it's still stealth. So I'm not even going to tell you the name of it yet.
I was kind of hoping you were going to slip, because you did this all day yesterday and you kept teasing it, you kept teasing it, and you kept teasing it. I'm like, he's gonna slip. We're all gonna get the exclusive. It was gonna be great. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, we got plenty of time with Keith. We'll see if we can get a little bit more of a tease from him on what he's working on.
I'm happy to talk about the model, but it's not so explicitly related to energy and sustainability, today's topic.
Awesome. Well, maybe we'll get to it in closing notes. So thank you, and I appreciate that as well. And Elfish, welcome back, my friend from across the pond. It is a pleasure to see you as well on a Friday. Little intro, little background for everybody.
Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm Albertos. I work in tech, building tech businesses. One of the big areas we're working in is around sustainability and energy. We're working on providing a platform and ecosystem around sustainability data, which seems to be a big gap in the space right now. How do you bring, if you're going to do net zero measurement, if you're going to do anything around the ESG sustainability value chain, one of the biggest gaps is where's the data and how do you pull it together to do a whole bunch of things around it. And that's one of the things we're working on.
Wonderful, and welcome back to the show. And again, ESG is something we've talked about continuously here, as it's becoming a rising and very important topic, and also set of guidelines globally that not just individuals and investors, but also corporations and governments are following to make sure that they are delivering upon specific needs around energy and sustainability. So we'll come back to that in just a little bit. Mr. Gary Fowler. It is an absolute pleasure. A symphony of artificial intelligence may be dropped today.
A symphony.
Welcome back to the show. There you go. Like, that was another new one for you. There you go. Little intro, little background.
Great. Yes, Master Yoda. Yes, yes. Okay, so my name's Gary Fowler, and I'm a writer. I've written almost 80 articles in the last year, and do a lot of speaking engagements. I'm an investor, created 3 different funds, but I also am the CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD, Get Shit Done Venture Studios, where we curate the most incredible companies from around the world in artificial intelligence that truly have billion-dollar potential. I've been involved in 2 unicorns. Click Software, which is a company that came out of Haifa, Israel. We brought it to the US and was sold 13 months ago for a little over $1 billion. And Eva, my company that I started almost 4 years ago now, is also encroaching on that status too. So really happy about it. I mean, we love to be unicorn breeders.
And you guys are doing a great job. Excited to talk more about that. And I know you have a new fund that we'll cover a little bit later in the show as well, because it does also relate to today's topic. So welcome back. Tolga, also a pleasure to see you. I know that you, as both a founder and as an investor, focus in this space. We talked a little bit about it yesterday, but I won't take the stage away from you. So a little intro and a little background. Welcome back.
Thank you, Kyle. My name is Tolga, and thank you for inviting me to this event again. Good to see you. It's a pleasure to be with you again. To give you a little bit brief background, I worked at companies like Spin Master in Canada and Electronic Arts, EA, and I founded my own company, startup called Thunderbolt, and I built multiple different digital technology ventures under the umbrella of my company. We eventually sold Thunderbolt to an investment company called New Wave Holdings, and based in Canada again. And after the acquisition, I was the CEO of New Wave Holdings. And that company, New Wave, went public in Canada at the Canadian Stock Exchange in October 2019. And after having a little bit break, I decided that the right move for me would be joining into the EV charging company called Loop. Now I'm their vice president, and I am helping them with a lot of both fundraising and design and marketing. And Loop is a very interesting company. It's an EV charging company that is competing with all the big players. And I will talk to you about Loop more. And you can visit our website at evloop.io. We are actually coming up with some new innovative stuff, rebranding a lot of things. And I will let you know about that too soon. Thank you.
Awesome. You said that yesterday. I'm going to call you out today. We definitely want to hear about that, whether it's during the conversation or in our show notes, because there is some exciting stuff I know you guys are working on, as you've told me previously. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, known in some parts of the world as Crypto Superwoman, but today here on VCTV, the winner of the best background. It's not a Zoom background. It is real. She is down on the farm, ladies and gentlemen. Irina, welcome back to the show. A little intro, a little background.
Thank you, Kyle. It's such a pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to our Casual Fridays for 2 weeks. And so I was like, I can do it. I'm going to do it. So here I am casually with my tractor, which I'm very proud of. It's a lot of fun to ride farm things. But my name is Irina Litchfield. Many know me as a Crypto Superwoman. I'm president of Bloomeria. It's where capital meets innovation. We are working on democratizing opportunities and investments. Really making sure that we bring liquidity to investors, to all of you guys, and ourselves as well. I'm also founder of Blockchain Cubed, which is blockchain technology integration company. We specialize in financial technology. I've dabbled a little bit in kind of a supply chain, but financial technology integration is kind of our key. I'm advisor for Space Fund, early stage space investment fund, which specializes on everything else other than launch. That's that. And a global securities exchange, Med Network, and a couple others. And it's such a pleasure to be here. Sustainability and energy is very important to me. Because my company Bloomeria connects innovations to capital, it is something that is a category that interests me very, very much so.
Wonderful. And welcome back, everybody. Again, this is, I know, a very important 2 topics and industries for each and every one of you. So just to kick things off, as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, what I heard on Vogue and read on their recent reports of Gen Z willing to pay more money for sustainably made products. Many companies, designers, and the like are getting in it from a clothing standpoint, but this went beyond clothing. As well, and the products that people in general were willing to pay for, knowing that they were sustainably made. On the flip side, energy. There's a ton happening within the energy space. As we're looking forward to the next decade, things are shifting, things are shaping. We're going from what were just alternative energy sources to now putting those in place and going beyond some of those initial initiatives and looking at what is to come in the near future. And so would love to hear from each and every one of you, the current state or what you're seeing happening in these industries as well, because so much is changing. So Ifran, let's start with you. I know you focus so heavily on energy, a little bit in sustainability on that side as well. Would love to hear from you first. What are you seeing? What's happening? Where are things now here in 2020 as we look ahead into the coming year and even the decade?
Thanks, Kyle, and thanks everyone else. So it's interesting that we are discussing this topic today. About exactly a decade ago, we had a similar wave post the 2008 financial crisis. We had this drive from major investors, and especially a group of investors who were involved in the cutting edge of innovation, like capitals like Sequoia, Anderson, were involved in creating this campaign to drive towards energy security and sustainability, which pretty much led to the birth of a lot of new technologies that are being used today for some of the companies that are able to make a huge difference. That includes, battery companies like A123, which later on, enable what we have as the Tesla vehicles. and other electric vehicles. So it's interesting that we are pretty much also probably in a very similar paradigm shifting moment. Essentially, during COVID, of course, energy security has been a major concern for all of us as to what's happening, how we're going to have sustainability in the coming years. And the other focus area that's also important is the concept of circular economy. And this is very important because, all these three pillars are equally connected. And at the end of the day, investments towards these specific areas are vital for or you can call that as a lifeline for the survival of other innovation as well as advancement of innovation. So that said, I personally have been, being an innovator as well as an early stage investor, I have been, involved in various verticals within the technology stream and innovation stream. However, when it comes down to it, the core components or the core infrastructure layer is very, very important. And when we come to that, energy is the most important, and which is why this is something that I have been working on, and I'm more than happy to talk more in the coming hour about some of the areas that I'm looking into, some of the new potential technologies that could have disruptive as well as very effective outcome in the coming years. So thanks, Kyle.
Wonderful. We're definitely going to be coming back to that here in just a moment. I already see Keith shaking his head. So Keith, you're up next on the mic here. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in your world. We again talked a little bit about this yesterday around clean tech in general, but going a level deeper around energy and sustainability. How are you seeing things now here in 2020, looking ahead to the year?
Yeah, there's been a big bounce back the last couple of years, and although I do anticipate there are going to be some difficult financing times ahead, 2020 so far has been really good for financings in energy and in sustainability. There are a number of big macro trends at play here that's making this space very interesting to strategics, which is of course driving expectations around exits, which helps to flow money into the space. Strategic interest continues to be really high. It's been a big driver for this space for decades. Obviously, it's how I began my career. And this applies across all industries. Energy is an obvious one, but all the way through to consumer goods. Earlier this year, I spoke at Davos for the Fashion for Good effort together with Adidas. It was one of my limited partners in my fund. Around sustainability in fashion. It's a hot topic, and I'll be happy to get more into depth around that. But the trends right now are up, although I do expect that there will be a financing crunch somewhere in the next year.
So go a level deeper on sustainability and finance, or excuse me, in fashion, not necessarily in finance, in fashion, if you could please, because they were actually, Adidas was actually mentioned in this Vogue survey, which I will share out to the show notes for the audience afterwards. But would love to hear just your thoughts in general, specifically because you have some experience in there, if you can, with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Adidas, for them and their brand, they find it very painful that the vast majority of the 3 stripes that they've ever produced are in landfills around the world. And this is something that they do not want to continue in the future. They're very committed to 100% recyclability, circular economy, cradle to cradle for everything they make. Now, for some products, that's not so hard, but for shoes, which is of course their flagship product, this is really tough. The material science that go into one of these shoes, it's very technical. You have at least 4 different distinct layers that are within a shoe. Each one is a different material. Each one has got to have bonding agents in between them. Each one also has got, well, maybe not in the middle, but everything you can see has got colorants and UV protectants and all kinds of things like this in it. That chemistry traditionally has been petrochemical, and nobody ever thought about end of life, because when those industries started, it was just put it in the garbage. It doesn't take up much room on the planet. Who cares? It's not a big deal. Well, we've seen that kind of thinking, unfortunately, go unchecked for many decades, and now it is a problem. Maybe we're not heading all the way to a Wall-E type of future, but there is an increasing problem here with availability of raw material and what to do with it afterward. So this has been a big effort. Now, when we did the panel in Davos, the emphasis here was on the financing of innovation in sustainability and fashion. And there's if I can just boil down to one salient point, there is a big gap between innovation that's largely coming out of academia and getting all the way to full commercial adoption. VCs are playing in one place, the strategics take over in another, but in between there's this terrible chasm, a valley of death that must be crossed. And at the moment, there are very few players playing in that space. Now that's something where I see this hybrid between a VC and a PE can really come into play. There's very few people that are playing there. These type of technologies are really needed. So you could take over where VC sort of runs out of steam, loses interest, but before it gets to exit, there's a very interesting place to play there.
Well, and that's a perfect transition. So Elfish, I want to come to you next. Thank you, Keith, on that. So what are you seeing in the current state of things when it comes to energy as you're building and investing in this space and a little bit into sustainability?
Follow up from Keith, I think all the things that he said, I'm on the financing side, one of the things we're seeing in the financial markets is ESG is now a risk. All companies, sustainability risk is now a thing. The big banks are looking at sustainability risk and how does that affect financing and valuation. That's happening now. So companies can't ignore any of this stuff anymore. So they can't just say, oh, it's fine, we don't care. Obviously, companies like Adidas are thinking about it, but the reality is that investors are now saying it will affect our investment. So I was talking to somebody yesterday about one of the big oil majors, and that particular oil major, but it's all oil majors, to be honest, have a problem around their sustainability and around their valuations, because frankly, oil won't be used. So the valuation of their business is going to halve because it may have oil reserve. The historic price of an oil gas company was on their reserves. Well, they're irrelevant right now. So the market is changing. One of the biggest things for me around sustainability has always been about financing. If there isn't interest from investors to do something and the impact won't have any effect, nobody's going to do anything. Now the financial markets are waking up to this. That will drive innovation, that will drive investment into getting this happening. The second thing is around, you mentioned Adidas. Actually, I was talking to one of their suppliers who supply cloth. I don't know if it's for the stripe, but they supply the cloth for Adidas gear. And I was talking to them, and we were talking about the data problem. And people at Adidas are saying, well, prove your sustainability footprint, prove your value chain accessibility. And obviously they're asking their 1,500 suppliers, okay, well, tell us your sustainability stuff, data. And of course, it doesn't exist, right? It's not there yet. So we're seeing that value chain and supply chain around sustainability becoming more important. And obviously, I'm talking about data. For me, it's about data. Unless you have the data, you can't do anything. Unless you have the data, you can't measure sustainability risk. Can't do it. So financing is one big thing, but I think the data that sits around the whole value chain is another big part of that. And nothing will happen unless you get that right.
Absolutely, and that's something we're going to come back to as well, because I want to dive deeper into data, and Gary's gonna, I know, have some points on that. But Tolga, to you, what are you seeing as this current state? I mean, focusing on EV, but also having a little bit of background on in energy and then global sustainability.
I mean, I totally agree with Keith, and I think the reason why financing hasn't been as prominent as in other markets is because sustainability is a very hard. It requires hard business models. You know, the business models that is around sustainability need to be really well thought. And sometimes you build a business model and it doesn't really fit. The theory doesn't really fit the reality. So in terms of financing and everything, I think things are going to change because I think because of the pandemic and how it's really fastening the process of this transformation into clean technologies and sustainability is going to change certain things. I think there's going to be a boom of financing into clean tech and sustainable products, services, and everything around it. But I think, again, I will repeat, the key is having the best business models, the most applicable business models that is applicable for the reality, that is really working in the reality. For example, our company, we are building it in a way that EV charging is a very, very new market, and not a lot of people really know how things really work in terms of what kind of business model is the best business model to fit to make it the most profitable for everybody. So, for example, our company has a business model that we have Loop, and that is selling the charging stations. We have different kind of charging stations for home, for residents, and for fast charging business units. We also have, next to Loop, we also have RenewAge that is providing all the services that needs to be done with the installations and everything. So, and a lot of people, a lot of EV charging companies, even for example, ChargePoint, they're going to become public soon with $2.4 billion valuation. But they don't have this kind of solution. They only sell the units, and in order for you to install these charging stations, you still need to hire the contractors and everything. So, like I said, there are huge players. There are very interesting business models. There's an insane amount of financing that is, I think, getting poured into this. But in the long run, the most crucial thing is the best business models that is going to make a difference. And I think it's especially important for sustainability, because sustainability is already a hard thing to achieve. And that's why, having the right business model is, I think, the key. And that makes the most difference, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Gary, to you. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. So Kyle, in terms of the areas that are interesting, right? So
yep.
My perspective, sustainable building materials. I mean, you look at it today, for instance, a boardwalk down here, being able to use plastic lumber instead of lumber. So recycled plastic, energy storage. I mean, this is, look what's happening with the state of California and electric vehicles. I mean, it's critically important. The storage in batteries. I know I just bought my 14th bike, electric, 5 electric, 14 bikes. Just bought it last week. The storage capabilities, 30% less profile, same amount of storage capability of the bike from a year before. So that density is really changing. Then you get technology like lithium fluoride, which are chemical batteries, which is about 5 to 6 times the capacity of lithium ion. So incredible advancements in that kind of technology. And then I don't know, it was Keith or Tolga somebody mentioned the circular economy. So take, make, dispose has to go away. It's got to be take, make, recycle. And we've got to understand, I mean, part of the challenge we have is we do not understand how big of a problem we have. Think about it. By 2099, NASA estimates that the sea levels will go up about 26 inches, 2 feet. Here in parts of Florida, it's in 1950 to today, some parts of Florida are up 8 inches already. And it's going up 1 inch every year, an inch, right? The entire state of Florida, so on average, is 3 feet above sea level. We've got a very serious problem that needs to be taken care of. So I think part of it is having people understand how big the problem is. You know, it's encouraging, Kyle, because I know when we first started being on your show, and the Himalayas were able to be seen for the first time in 30 years. I mean, that was very encouraging. It gave us some hope. The other thing is, you know, plastic pollution. We make plastics so it's disposable. We need to make sure it's recyclable. And the other thing is, you go to recycle plastic and they got 3 bins out there. You're not sure which bin to put it in. I don't know about you, but it's crazy, right? Here, stick this. I don't know which one to put in what bin. Sometimes it's not clear. You know, we need to have systems in place to be able to tell us what to do better, sort better, using things like computer vision, right? Within the entire process. And then the other thing is, and it's really important, is we need transparency with data management and reporting. Who's doing what? So we can put them on to task. Okay, this is what needs to be done. What are you doing? And let's publish those figures so we understand so everybody's on the same playing field.
Absolutely. And Irina, to you.
Yes, I agree with you, Gary. You know, it's interesting because when we look at the recycling plastic, right, we just look for the recycling sign, but there's a number inside of there. And when you look at that number, what that number means is that it requires different processes in order to recycle it. And so a little known fact is that a lot of businesses are kind of have been popping up and saying, okay, we're going to go and collect the trash and we'll do recycling. And when they go through the sorting, it actually becomes very unprofitable for them because a lot of these materials require very specific, different type of you know, machinery or whatever, equipment. And it is a big problem, right? Because it's kind of like a miscommunication. People pick up the bottle, oh, it's recyclable. I'm doing a good job, I'm contributing to bettering the world, but in reality, it's just going to end up in a landfill because nobody is going to recycle it. One of the big pushes that I'm seeing right now is in kind of alternative energy, and it's a little bit farther away than you know, than our current reality. But I do see a lot of innovation in, let's say, propulsion, right? So, and to me, we need to start thinking about how do we, and it's related to space, but what we do in space is kind of relates to what we do in our planet. How do we get out of our planet without burning the fuel the way we do? Because flying on the big rockets is just not going to get us where we need to go. And so that is really pushing a lot of innovation in alternative energy. And while electrical is great, and I have electric car, I've had electric car for a long time, and I love my car too dearly. You know, it feels right. But when we start looking at, you know, what goes into the production and what it takes, it's always questionable, right? There's not really a clean line of you know, of what is beneficial and what is not. One of the major kind of a energy crisis that we're experiencing here in Texas is basically the fact that oil price dropped dramatically, right? And now all the oil money sitting in Texas and wondering, what do we do? And a lot of big ranches are being sold. You know, we have all this, you know, wealthy people buying hunting ranches, you know, 3 sections, which is, you know, 1,500 acre land to put their exotic deer hunting, you know, ranches on, so they can, you know, go once a year and entertain their friends. So that is opening up. The reason I'm mentioning it is because it's opening up a lot of conversations in our government for seeing, okay, how do we actually keep the innovation going? How do we make sure that Texas leads the energy production and we shift into it? And so while we experience the crisis, we are seeing a lot of adoption from regulators. And I like to think about regulators because they're the ones that are kind of allow us, I believe they allow us to start implementing a lot of interesting solutions. So you know, and obviously, again, sustainable, I think, is the wrong word, and I've been saying it and I will repeat it again. It's regenerative. I think that we live in a world that was built sustainable. Industrial world is sustainable world, and we are now fighting with this sustainable design. It's been built and it's very hard for us to change, and we live in a world that's constantly changing, and the changes are so rapid that it is really hard to wrap our mind around it, and we need to be able to adapt to it. So ability to think in a way to where we need to be able to pivot maybe in 3 years or 5 years and not build this big sustainable structures which are so hard to change. I think that's one of the keys that I'm looking in for in companies. So I want to see how something can be changed, right? If a material, it doesn't, I don't need the screw that's durable forever for, let's say, farming. Why? Because the whole system changes and then that screw becomes irrelevant, and then it does not, what I need is ability to be able to go and melt that screw and turn it into, let's say, a little hose part, right? Or a plug-in or whatever it is. Ability to be able to recycle and reuse, to regenerate internally, I think, is a big push toward the future. Now, is that a reality for us now? I don't think so. But again, a lot of people are building these solutions, and most importantly, now sustainability, which I think people, by sustainability, I think they mean we want it to be good for Earth, and that it allows us to live sustainably and not become extinct as as humans. I think that it's, what's beautiful is that it's now good marketing, and
which is a point I wanted to bring up here in just a moment, is that that's actually one of the common mistakes that many companies and others make around their sustainability efforts, right? Is they one, don't ask for help. Two, they may not understand the data that they're collecting or not collecting and what to do with that data. And it becomes a PR initiative. And I know a lot of people may push back on that are listening, but it's true. There are a lot of companies out there that just use the idea of sustainability, energy efficiency as well, as a PR tactic, and may not be using it as an industry for pushing the industry forward on not just standards, but also regeneration. And right. Ifran, I want to come to you real quick. Sorry, Irina, I'm going to come right back to you. But Ifran, I want to come to you. You wanted to talk a little bit more about the technologies and the opportunities in these areas. So throwing it to you, where are you seeing the exciting opportunities in technology where these technologies can intersect around energy and sustainability?
Thanks, Kyle. No, first of all, I really appreciate, all the points that my fellow speakers have made, and they're, all very interesting segments. So I'll start off with one component that Irina mentioned, is about, the energy in the case of the provenance of the new sustainable energy, right? So, and this is a field that I've worked, and I've been working for over a decade. So interestingly, so we are working on, and some of my projects are working on trying to utilize some of those, technologies that may seem out there to bring and address some of the challenges. So one of the companies that I can mention about where we utilize, high level and low level nuclear waste to essentially create highly energetic as well as high powered energy source. Now, one of the interesting component of that, because a lot of folks over here have touched on electric vehicles. So one of the key components of electric vehicles, so let's say if you look at lithium battery cells or even solid state batteries, is cobalt. Now, sustainability is interconnected with also, social responsibility, because we cannot forget that. And cobalt essentially comes from conflict region. In fact, the world's supply of cobalt comes from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And, and we have a small group of battery folks here in the US, where a group of us, we've been discussing, post, Tesla's Battery Day, QuantumScape's, IPO announcement, that, with the rise of the electric vehicle and utilizing some of the existing, electric energy source, what will be the repercussions of things like that? And this leads back to, a couple of the other points that some of the fellow speakers have made. One of that is, I'll take first the side of the startup as an entrepreneur as well as a founder, is the support structure, or how to proceed or charter through this phase. So I myself, I'm directly involved with 2 academia here, and MIT as well as Carnegie Mellon. And so both these institutions have specific organizations that are able to help companies in this track. So for MIT, for if there's a startup, I suggest they should reach out to MIT Solve, and this is a group dedicated towards creating and helping projects that are looking into SDGs as well as the circular economy. Similarly, Carnegie Mellon is also looking into the field like that. So I would suggest that those are some of the tools that one could utilize, once a company is in its very early formation stage, because as data as well as sometimes it might be all out there, because this is a field that's very massive, and just to understand that what kind of impact it will make, and a lot of the sectors have to be seen very carefully, because as we are moving to a more and more complex world, each of these sectors are all equally connected. Sustainability is connected with social responsibility, along with how come economic output that we'll be able to come, because they're all relevant. Similarly, investors have a big responsibility. In fact, I wrote a paper at the Harvard Business School where we basically talk about the investors' social responsibility, where we critically look at venture capital's social responsibility. And the reason is that, again, I'm going to mention, like as I mentioned, about 10 years ago, some of the top venture capital firms here had taken the initiative towards sustainability. And however, the key problem that was there is that it was always driven by a particular GP or a particular managing partner. But when somehow down the line, that torch is never translated to the next stages. If you go to some of these major VCs, etc., it would be very hard for you to find a sustainability tab or what is their social sustainability responsibility within their organization. And it's very, very interesting, because it gives you a clear message that how the industry is thinking, or are they preparing for the future that we are talking about. Because what Gary mentioned, this is happening as we are speaking, and if we do not understand what the impact of this will be, we're going to be in a pretty tough situation. So investments have to be driven towards that. So I'll pause right there. I'm happy to hear more around some of those areas where my fellow speakers are also thinking.
Absolutely. So Keith, thank you, Efrain. Keith, to you, where are you seeing the opportunities as technology may intersect into these industries?
Well, if I can just speak to Irfan's point there, because I think that's right on the money. Most groups are not paying attention to this. However, there is a growing segment within venture capital called impact investing that really does care about these things. And so this is something that a couple of years ago, when I was at Pangea, we decided there was an opportunity for leadership here. That this is something that corporations increasingly are caring about, that the citizens of the world are increasingly caring about. So we set up a methodology inspired by the UN sustainability goals on how, without being too burdensome to our portfolio companies, we could track the impact of our portfolio. So we boiled it down to a few different metrics. CO2 equivalent emissions, either abated or pulled out of the air, food production, fresh water, either saved or generated. And then the last one is a little bit different, and this is much more on the social side, but that was health, lives impacted from a health perspective. And came up with methodology for measuring all of those in ways that was not too, didn't hit our portfolio companies with too much of an administrative burden. We put out goals, and then every year state how did we do against those goals. And year one, we hit some of the goals, and some of the goals we failed largely. And that's because we measured that by commercial impact. Because it doesn't matter how great a technology is in theory and what it might be in 50 or 100 years, what we really need right now is its impact today. And you can only do that if you're selling product. So we're not measuring the potential, but actual commercial impact. What is it really doing out there in the world? So that was a great exercise. Irfan, I completely agree with you on that, and I wish a lot more people were doing that. I'd like to see us all challenge each other to see how we can do this better, and to make this a competitive metric that we use for attracting capital and attracting portfolio companies to want to work with us. Sorry, Kyle, I had to talk to Irfan's point there. Could you restate your question? Because I lost.
No, listen, that was a great point. I'm going to be coming around to everybody. So technology, how is technology playing a role, or where is the opportunities with technology in energy and sustainability? And we're coming around to everybody before we get to the lightning round here. So Keith, go for it.
Okay, great. So let me talk to one point that hasn't really been addressed today, but I think is important. And this relates to what I talked about yesterday with companies moving from a technology platform to a service platform, but the technology is driving that. Energy storage is the one key area where I think you can still really make a lot of money in energy. The actual generation itself, very difficult. It's a race to the bottom. It's the ultimate commodity. Storage, though, unlocks the power of all of that into any application. And the key metric here is a levelized cost of storage. In some geographies, like here in beautiful British Columbia, we're blessed with all these mountains and all this rain. We've got fantastic natural storage with hydroelectricity. But most places in the world don't have that. There are a number of different technologies that are addressing this. Certainly, there's a lot of work going on right now in California around battery, lithium-ion, rechargeable batteries, huge banks of those for storage. I believe, although it's coming down every year, that the levelized cost of storage ultimately there approaches an asymptote, and it just doesn't get any better beyond a certain point. You also have sustainability issues around the materials and the provenance of those materials that go into lithium ion. We spoke earlier about cobalt, right? Nobody's mentioned yet, but the practices for mining of lithium. And of course, there are many other issues around its logistics and supply chain. I favor chemistries that are much more benign and universally available. And so I made an investment in a company out of Portland, Oregon called ESS, Energy Storage Systems. Very generic name, but what they have that's so brilliant is a flow battery that uses 2 different oxidation states of iron. So we have iron on one side and iron on the other, and it's literally in a salt water electrolyte. So if you had a catastrophic failure of this, what you get is a bunch of rusty salt water dumped into the earth. It's as safe and benign as you get. The materials are literally dirt cheap and literally available everywhere around the world. I love that from a supply chain perspective. I love that from a sustainability perspective. End of life, this type of equipment, you don't have any of the toxic effects or or problems. And honestly, the life on these things is like 30 plus years. So I'm very keen about things like that. That's the metric to which the sort of high bar that I set for all my investments in this area. I want to see things that are not just cheap, they have to be that, but they also have to be safe and they have to last a long time. And if you get those things, you can get customers to sign on, you can see rapid exponential adoption of technology.
I love it. And Elfish and Gary, I want to come to you both around data and AI. Also, I mean, where do technology play a role? But I feel like both of you have more to contribute around on the data side. But Elfish, let's start with you, and then Gary, we're going to come to you.
Well, technology is part, I mean, obviously technology is a massive landscape, right? And data, I would say, to deliver data, you need technology, right? I mean, so, I mean, all the points are well made, you know. I think that the thing that the behavior that I'm seeing change is that people are now trying to solve these problems. It's now getting serious because their peers in their industries are doing things. There's things like the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So, you know, Keith mentioned the fashion industry. There's a whole initiative with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation on fashion. There's also one around the new plastics economy. So, you know, there's a whole set of movements and initiatives going on, which is fantastic. You know, finally, after 10 plus years of me looking in this space, you know, there was really momentum wasn't there. And now we're seeing that momentum, which makes it fantastic. Finally, momentum where things are going to change. You never know, you might get to these 2030 targets now. So for me, I don't want to say it again, but data is key to this. The gap that I see in all of the value chain, in all industries, is how they're going to pull this together to measure this. You know, very, very simply, people say net zero. How are you going to measure it's net zero? How are you going to measure it? How are you going to say, yeah, I'm net zero? Prove it. Prove that you are net zero. Show me immutably that you've done this. Qualitative measures have been around for that's what has been used. Qualitative measures saying, you know, we reduced our carbon footprint by, I don't know, using less water. Okay, you can measure water because you have a water bill, but there's it's a lot more involved than that. So for me, you know, these are the kind of things that it's not just about data, but the data gives you the ability to answer a whole bunch of questions and gaps that there are. And that's why I'm focusing on it. I mean, it's very straightforward.
Yeah. No, this is perfect. That's why I asked the very direct question. I know that's where you're focused. I think it's a great opportunity, and also people that are looking to work further in this area should be coming to you. And I will shamelessly promote you on that as well. And Gary, to you, I mean, similar question around data, artificial intelligence, and maybe any other technologies you see or are working with in these areas.
Well, I mean, the thing is, you know, so some people believe that there's a problem with global warming. Some people don't believe there's a problem with global warming. So taking that, it's crazy actually. So what we got to do is take that data, and we've got to now look at that data more closely and report what it is. As I said earlier, who's actually going down through and complying? What kind of tonnage did they have come through? Where did that tonnage go to? Let's make it a bit clearer about what recyclable. I mean, Irina just said about having a number. I never knew there was a number on the plastic inside, right? So, I mean, how in the world, how many buckets do you need to have? Maybe we have to have some type of tag on the outside of it so it knows what bucket to go into. I mean, there's got to be some way. So, you know, part of the challenge is let's figure out what we got and manage that data. Let's predict what's going to happen in the future based on having, you know, X amount of plastic, sea levels going up at X level. This is how much recyclable goods we have. This is how much energy we're using. Let's tie the models together. And then, as I said, reporting. Let's show everybody, let's put it out, what everybody's doing and how we can correct it. Because correcting the problem, the first part of it is an understanding what the problem is.
Absolutely. Irina, to you, super quick, as we're about to come up to time here. So other areas of technology that you see or opportunities within the energy and sustainability space.
To kind of close it in and follow on the data, authenticity of the information is the key. You know, fake information has been a problem for I think for just as long as we have existed, and in order to make sure that we have authentic data, blockchain technology comes in. I remember I remember what you said yesterday, and you're 100% right that it's, mining has been problematic, but there are a lot of solutions and a lot of opportunities now that are kind of moving away from we have clean mining now, and it's coming up more and more. As we evolve energy, we will evolve other things that exist, live on that energy. But single source of truth and an immutable ledger, I think, immutable information is kind of the key for us, that brings it all together, because then now we know that the data is authentic. We know then how to compose, to compile it, how to analyze it with AI, and we can build better systems, and we can build better measurements. How we measure is a big question. How do I know? I took a note from what you said, Keith, because I really appreciate it. And I think that one of the first steps we can do is empower regenerative farming, because it allows us to bring food, water, and most importantly, regenerate topsoil, which is a really big problem people don't talk about, but I'll leave it there.
Wonderful. And Tolga, last points on this, technology, areas of opportunity as we come to close.
I actually mentioned this yesterday too. There's just because of the pandemic, everything is, the transformation has accelerated big time. And I think technology is playing a huge role in this. We wouldn't be able to, achieve this kind of transformation 50 years ago or 100 years ago. Even though, solar energy was present 100 years ago, it didn't become mainstream just because the technology, the environment wasn't, prepared for this. But now, technology, the connectivity, all other, opportunities that come with technology are providing the sustainability and clean technologies to grow faster. And I think that's the key here. The companies who are utilizing technology, big data, AI into their business models are going to be extremely valuable. I think the companies who are, not only just building a product, but also building a community around what they are doing, what they're what they're trying to achieve. I think it's very important as well. So I think there's a 360 approach to this. When you are building a product or a service around sustainability and clean energy, you definitely have to utilize technology, and you have to reach to audiences, and you have to build a community around it. And also, like I said, the data, the collection of data, the way that you're using AI in every aspect of the business model is extremely crucial. These are, I think, making the companies valuable. I think in the next 2 to 5 years, during this transformation after the pandemic, these companies are gonna be having the most value. And in terms of the how the VCs are looking into this and their social responsibility, I think it's just it all works together. When you are building a community, when you are building your product around sustainability, and you're connected to people, and you're utilizing AI in the best way possible, this is also what the VCs are looking for. So it is making the investments are more socially responsible too. So I think whatever the entrepreneurs are working on, I think the key here is to approach this in a 360 way. Not only build a product or service, but also build a community, utilize technology in the best way possible, connectivity, AI, and big data.
Yeah, and I can see everyone shaking their head. I mean, still, currently, everyone is still shaking their head, and there's no lag on the internet connection here. So I can see how much everyone, including myself, agree with you on that last point, Tolga. And thank you, everybody, for your time and for your insights today as we do come to close. So I want to come around to each and every one of you just for where everyone can find you, because we are at the top of the hour. So I want to be sensitive of your schedules. And again, thank you so much for your time. So Tolga, since you finish this off, we'll let you start. Where can everyone find you online to continue the conversation?
Sure. Very quickly, please visit my website, tolgaonuk.com, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Our company is Loop, and you can check our company. It's still our old website, but we're coming up with some really new stuff. It's evloop.io. Please connect with me.
Wonderful. Thank you. Irina, where can everyone find you?
Google me, and I'm everywhere. Irina Litchfield. Message me on LinkedIn if it's a cold call, and also Twitter, Irina Litchfield.
Wonderful. Mr. Gary Fowler, where can everyone find you online?
Yes, Gary Fowler, LinkedIn, Gary at gsdvs.com. I'm also all over the internet, so you Google my name and you can find me. It'd be great to hear from you. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you. I love the fact that both of you are like, we're all over the internet. You can Google any of us and find us very quickly, but specifically Gary and Irina, Google them. You'll find them very quickly and easily. I tease. Elfish, to you, where can everyone find you?
The usual place, the same as them, Alpesh Doshi. The thing for me, though, is if you send me a LinkedIn request, make sure you say where you saw me or hear about me, because as I'm sure all of us do, we get lots of LinkedIn requests from people. On Twitter, I'm at Alpesh Doshi. My company is at Fintricity. Yeah, and on Google as well.
There you go. So far, you got 4 for 4, not only on social media, ladies and gentlemen, but also on Google. Let's see if we can go 5 for 5. Keith, where can everyone find you online?
I'm not on Google. No, don't bother to look. No, there's nothing to see there. No, please. But you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can follow me on Twitter, Keith A. Gillard. And no, I'm gonna save. We're out of time. Oh, I was gonna tell you all about my new thing, but we're out of time. Sorry, Kyle. Next time.
We will have you back. I will get that exclusive at some point here on VCTV. So audience, do not worry. We'll get it out of Keith at some point. Ifran, close us out. Where can everyone find you online?
Thanks, Kyle, and thanks everyone, and thanks to the audience for tuning in and staying with us. You can reach me over LinkedIn as well as Twitter as Semper Irfan. And one thing that I just wanted to add from the conversation today, if you're solving a real problem, come to me. And I have been looking into technology for years now. And one of my mission is to keep the integrity of what we are trying to do for a very long time. Because as we mentioned earlier, these kind of, topics always generate hype, and you have a lot of folks, who tries to utilize this space and try to come into this space. What is one thing that I ensure doing, that if you're solving a real problem and if you're proactive to solve this real problem, then you should be reaching out to me, because I'll make that happen. So thank you.
I love it. And not just to Ifram, but to all of us here on VCTV and all the investors on the panel today. And remember, as Irina mentioned, I'll bring this back up along with Elpesh, add context when you do reach out to each and every one of us, so that we know you met us or heard us here on VCTV, and or it is relevant to the industry that you're building in, an industry that we are interested in or investing in as well. This always a good foundation to build the relationship on with your investors and potential partners or advisors and the like. With that being said, thank you all again so much for joining us today, sharing your thoughts and insights around energy and sustainability and technologies in between. And to your live audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up, do reach out. Thank you, Irina. If you'd like to be on a show like today, thank you, Gary, as an investor, to share your thoughts and insights around technology, industries, and regions around the world. As entrepreneurs, if you'd like to be on a show like today to pitch us, thank you, Keith. As investors, to get real-time feedback and the chance to pitch our live audience, thank you, Tolga. We'd love to have you and find the right virtual stage and set of investors along with topic to focus on you and your company, product, and or service. With that, a big thank you to the LA Token team and Emmanuel for making VCTV possible every single day. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. You can find me on social media at Kyle Ellicott and on Google as well. So you've got all of us on Google and social media. We're available 24/7, 365. Remember to add context. I'm your host. We'll see you back here next week on more episodes of VCTV. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.